Welcome. Welcome to Conversations with a Bodhisattva and Thursday evening exploration of something. And last week we talked about the only constant in life is change, but also another constant that goes with change is often fear of change. And obviously with that there's resistance to change, and of course that in itself can create stagnation and pain and actually stop our potential growth and our potential evolution and expansion. And I think also, just before I read out Damien's question, I think as humans we are here having a human experience with spiritual beings on a human journey, and really it's an opportunity for evolution and expansion. And I've used this analogy before, where if we see life as a spiral staircase, then it's getting bigger and bigger, and there's more and more possibility to express ourselves and expand and grow and really have an amazing time here in this paradigm. Unfortunately, because of the childhood woundings, the pain and the karmic stuff that no doubt we bring in, all of those things, what happens is often as the expansion starts to happen, that if the wound isn't healed, it will show up in our experiences, and that can cause despair and disappointment, because if we're not seeing it as the inner journey, that this is an opportunity for growth and clearing and another opportunity to become more than we were before, what it can do is take us downward, and therefore the expansion stops, and instead deeper and deeper conditionings and stories and narratives, and people join in with other people and start to have an idea that life's a downward spiral after a certain time, rather than this expansive spiral staircase. So let's actually read what Damien asked me and see whether I'm beginning to even answer any of it. So, as I said last week, we were talking about the only constant in life is change, but also the fear of change. And from that, Damien asked, can you give some advice on helping maintain the energy of change rather than potentially being paralysed by it, and particularly around taking action? Okay, so there are all sorts of different types of change. One of the first things to say is that change is always happening. This universe we live in is ever moving, therefore it's ever changing. Nothing is staying the same, absolutely nothing in this experience. Now, of course, the stillness in our being, the silence within us, the consciousness of which we're all born is still, is absolutely silent. And if we work from the position of experiencing our essence and really being mindful to clear the conditionings to our beliefs, our opinions, our adaptations to the pain, the woundings and the trauma that happened when we were small, if that is our orientation, and we are, and everybody here, it is the orientation to know that from the position of clearing, then ultimately we're going to be more aware of change, and we're not going to be so stuck with trying to hold on to things. So change is always happening. That can't be any other way. At the core of our being, there is stillness. When we know who we are and we come to the place where we're clearing away the stress, we're clearing the tension, we're clearing the conditioning, and we know that stillness within us, then consciousness seeks to create. Consciousness is creation in motion. It seeks to find form. It doesn't have to. It can be in a silent, still space, but it generally seeks to find form, as we see, in the form of everything that we can imagine. It will seek that form, and that can be thoughts themselves, consciousness in motion. They have life. words have life. Everything is consciousness experiencing itself, God in motion. We are God in motion. The creative force within us is that wholeness and oneness of which we're all born. There isn't any separation between us. So there isn't anything to fear. That is absolutely nothing to fear, because when we really, genuinely, truly come into that space of silence within us, which is why it's useful to practice meditation. But the trouble is, if meditation is just something we tick off, that's not necessarily so helpful. But it can be useful to each day practice at least experiencing that stillness in us, and that can come through just a watching the breath meditation. It can come through just sitting quietly, come through chanting as we do on Mondays, just dropping into that space where we're not holding on to all of the angst of the day, of the past, all our conditioning, all our opinions, all of those things. And we know that stillness. The paradox of this is that in knowing our stillness and our still place with where there is no movement, then we are able to watch the change and embrace the change and witness it and flow with it. And it can be a really, really fun thing. So if we come more to a human level of change, a lot of change happens seemingly without us wanting it to. Now, as I say, we can, I don't want to get into too many complexities here, because we could say that everything that goes on in our life at some level is a reflection of us, and which of course it is, because everything is, this whole universe is energy. And as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know about the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration and resonance. So energetically, everything playing out on the screen of life is something to do with our subconscious mind. So therefore, all the things that seemingly happen to us outside of us are actually only a reflection of our inner workings. Now, that can be too much of a difficult concept for people who are having lots of loss or change or traumatic or tragic circumstances, and therefore it's a very a concept that isn't one to particularly say too much about, because more importantly is because people can get into a confusion and think things are their fault or they're to blame, and that isn't what this is about. What this is about is recognizing that we can be empowered if, when change seemingly is happening without any of our any control of us whatsoever, we have the capacity to flow with it, go with it, grow with it. So let's go from a position that we haven't got any say, because as I say, I'm just really wanting to give you something that will help you be able to, as Damien said, not, what did he say? Maintain the energy of change, not be paralysed by it, and particularly take action. So if we think that something's happened and we don't like it, so let's go from the negative perspective first, that we've lost our job, or a partner's left us, or we've had an accident, or we're injured. We certainly don't want to go, well, this is my fault, that doesn't work. But if we go from the position of, this is, my responsibility now is how I respond to this, because actually we will make a huge difference. And these changes, these even traumatic changes, can be possibilities for growth. In fact, they are potential growth. So a change that we didn't want, to, fall over and break our leg. We didn't want to have our partner leave. We didn't want to lose our business. We didn't want to, have any of those things happen. If we resist it and we go into the place of victim, and we go into the place of being wronged, all of those things, we will get stuck. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that we wouldn't have a process of grief. We wouldn't have a process where we might express anger and disappointment and any of those feelings that might come up if change has seemingly happened and it's not something that we wanted. There will be some potential for growth in all of these things. Now, as I say, I'm just doing a very short video, so these are concepts that, at least even if we come from the position of, okay, so we've had something happen, we didn't want it to happen, but if we resist it, we're going to cause ourselves pain. We're going to go and stagnate, and we're not seeing that there's a potential for transformation in its hands. And that therefore, as Damien asked, how do we maintain the movement of change? First of all, we do need to process any feelings of anger, pain, upset, grief. We need to really fully clear those from our body. What we don't need to do is stick ourselves into a cycle of victim where we go, this shouldn't have happened, this is wrong, this shouldn't have been the way it is. That may be something we do as part of the clearing when we're railing against something. If we recognise that we have to go deep into the loss, we have to go deep into the anger, we have to go deep into those feelings to clear them, that's a very different position to staying in a loop where we're stuck and we can't see the next steps, and we're not letting this change propel us into something new. This is where it can be helpful to get someone to help with those situations, because if you've got someone to help see the new vision, because what people are often mourning with those kind of dramatic changes that weren't expected is they're mourning the vision they had, and they now have to create a new vision which is completely different, and therefore what can happen is that they'll stagnate and stay stuck, and people therefore can miss the whole kind of opportunity of being here and grow through it. And lots of people do miss the opportunities, and they stay in the place of victim, they stay in the place of pain, and therefore change isn't able to propel them. There are other people who it has been that kind of immense shock of change that has opened them to massive growth, because it has taken them on an inner journey. And there really is only the inner journey, because when we're looking to the external circumstances to give us stability, to make us feel okay, to make us feel safe, happy, then they're very vulnerable, because they can go and they can change. There will always be some sort of change. However much we're trying to hold on, there will be some kind of change. So that's with the very big traumatic, shocking changes. It is a matter of getting support, getting people to help us through it, honouring the feelings that come up, the human feelings, but being open to it as an opportunity for the new. And that's how you keep that movement going. And then obviously being able to, that's why support can help take some actions. So if there's been being let down with, if people can be let down, they think they're getting a house, it falls through. It can be a really disappointing thing. It's important to grieve the lost place and then immediately start looking and investigating the new. And a lot of people find that very hard. And I think a lot of this is about practicing clearing the pain, staying present, and then taking a small step, even when you don't feel like it. I remember Bear Grylls saying about climbing Everest, and he said, you just keep taking small steps and you keep moving. So that's when there's been change that you don't want, or you don't think you want. Now, as I say, another video probably will talk all about that our subconscious mind is playing out on the screen of life. So anything that happens at some level, as I emphasize, it's not our fault, but it will be, or not your fault, but there will be some sort of pattern playing out. There will be some sort of karmic process. There'll be something, and therefore we need to be able to go within to change our inner patterns. Now, again, we don't want to get stuck on trying to do it to such a level, because some of the patterns are so deep that it's more about witnessing things going on in our life and saying, okay, there may be something with change where a change keeps happening that we do like, and we notice that we always meet interesting people who give us an opportunity and invite us to something that then leads to a business opportunity, and we'll go to a dinner party or something, and there'll be somebody who knows somebody, and the next thing is we've got another contract, or there'll be those patterns of positive change that can go on. But there can also be loops of repeatedly having getting involved with a business partner and it goes wrong, and the same pattern plays out again and again, so that change seemingly again is going on without us really knowing it. And so I think one of the ways to get with the flow of change is to start really noticing the patterns, because we will all have things that play out again and again, and that can be positive patterns, as I said, where we'll always get clients, or we'll always get contracts, or we'll always make friends easily, or we'll always get a boyfriend, we'll always make money. There are patterns that happen, and I have obviously worked with people for years and years, and there'll be then the opposite. There'll be people who find it really difficult to find a partner. There'll be other people who always find a partner. There won't be any difference in them as humans. It will be their pattern. They're both similar, kind of ages and looks and all of that. Some people find it very easy to make money. Some people find it difficult. Some people always make a friend wherever they go. Other people will be loners. So therefore the patterns are quite interesting, because they look like there's change happening, because they'll go into a situation, get a boyfriend. Some people get a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, and it always ends, and there's the same loop. So there's always change happening, but actually on a level that isn't change going on. Those are patterns playing out. So real change, that is change, and that is things that seemingly are happening that are different to before. But in some ways that's not change. In some ways that's witnessing our programming and our patterns. So I think the most important thing is noticing what's going on in your life, noticing all the time what is playing out, because you can then see, is the change really happening, or am I just on a loop? So if I leave a job and I think that I'm making a change, and I go into another job, am I making a change, or am I just playing out the same loop and another situation, and it's just the same characters but different people, but the same scenario? I think really being able to make significant changes in our life does come from first noticing who we are, noticing and investigating our paradigm, noticing what our history's been. Have we just been on a program of somebody else's ideals and ideas? Have we been working against somebody's ideas and ideals? Have we just been on more of a conveyor belt and a treadmill, which or are we ready to make absolute significant change within us, which is about really coming from the place of silence? Because if we are able to go beyond the polarity of this life, where we're flung between being up, being down, things being good, things being bad, being caught in a pattern, having the same script about any of those situations I mentioned, whether it's our people we meet, scenarios we play out, friendships we make, financial situations, successes, failures, investigating, are they a loop, or are we making breakthroughs and having things happen that are new and different, and there's a shift, as I might call it. I think that's really true change, is when we break out of the conditioning and the programming. And it's said that up to 90% of our life is coming out of the unconscious, subconscious patterns, which means that people are on a treadmill, and that will be a treadmill on a daily treadmill. It can be on a treadmill of these things I've said, and they can be traumatic things happening or successful things happening, but they'll often go on a loop. And if people or you start to go, I want to change this, it's an inner journey into first investigating, where you've got your beliefs from. Why do I think that? Listening to what you say, listening to what you think, listening to watching yourself interacting with people, seeing what's playing out, and really, really being super, super on it in watching yourself. Really, that's where it comes back to coming back to the breath, coming back to the center point, so that you're not caught up just in the kind of treadmill of it, and instead going on the inner journey. And when you come into that silence, then people become unpredictable. Really, if people are operating from their unconscious, which most people are, then they're very predictable. And then actually other people can predict people's patterns. So even though it looks like there might be change happening, as I said, it might not be. Sometimes something big happening, a big shift, can instigate a change. And it doesn't mean people aren't evolving as these things happen. But it's only you who know that, whether you're actually significantly shifting on the inside or whether you're still treading the same route. Now, sometimes people want to tread the same route. So even though everything's, moving around them, they'll do everything to hang on to what they know. They'll do everything to hang on to the scripts, even to the toxic things, even to the woundings, even to the patterns in relationships that don't work, because they're familiar. And so people will seek to hold on. And this is an irony, really, because if we dare to let go and dare to come back to that center point, come back to the space between thoughts, to the space between words, to the space between the breath, we come into that limitless, infinite space, then anything is possible. It says, the Buddha says, in that space, 3,000 possibilities are there. And I think that's just a metaphor for limitlessness and limitlessness, opportunity to create, to transform, to essentially know our true self. And if we come from that place, then it's fun. And then, of course, you're going to flow. You're going to flow with the creation. And that doesn't mean that if you come from that place, there won't be times when you don't want to flow down that river. We've used this analogy, I know. And, the river can be flowing and the change is happening. And it can feel, can get to points where it feels rocky and sticks are in the way and it's turbulent. And that is often the point that people then cling to the old, because it feels uncomfortable. Often when there is true transformation happening, true change happening, we're going into a completely different experience of who we are, and we're able to create from that space, from our source energy, and we're allowing this through us. Of course, those old patterns can start to kick in and we can start to feel, I don't want this. And many people go back, ironically, and cling to the familiar and cling to what they know, even if what they know was less abundant, was less harmonious, was less relational. So really and truly, just to properly answer Damien's question, is that ultimately we need to be doing the going within, going on the inner journey always, which is always coming back to the breath, always coming back to that silent place, always stilling the mind, so that we can allow ourselves to experience ourselves as silence, the essence of us, and then allow the creativity to flow from that place, which, as I say, consciousness is, seeks to create. And then in that place, as humans, with all of the spiral staircase, with the wounding, what can happen is, as we start to expand, a wound will come up, an old pattern, an old way of being, and that can create a bit of a roadblock. And that's as I say, like the analogy of the river, when it feels dangerous, it feels rocky, it feels sticks and stones are in the way, that we're being tossed around by the river rather than flowing, that's the time to keep taking action, to keep coming back to the meditation, to keep clearing the distress that comes up, to keep knowing that we can create our lives consciously, that we are the creators, we are creativity in motion, we are consciousness in motion. We can change those, stop those patterns that have historically created things that don't feel as good. We can expand and create anything. There's no limit to anything in this universe. Anything we can imagine, we can create. Now, of course, there's a lot of when we tend to look out, we don't necessarily think that's possible. When we look within and start to take the steps to listen to that inner voice, to silence the old patterns, the old narratives, to clear away the feelings of fear that come up, the feelings of distress that come up when we're taking new steps, then amazing things can happen. And that is even if we're coming out of some change that we didn't think we wanted. And I have the privilege over the years of working with a lot of people who've had changes they didn't think they wanted, in terms of endings of all sorts, endings and losses and failures and all manner of situations that have always, in my experience, taken, because they've come for help with the transition, always taken them to something completely different, completely expansive and creative. And I've often had people come to me who've repeated a pattern many times, and they've seen, when they look back, that this pattern has gone on from childhood and they didn't even know it. And therefore it's empowering when people are ready to go, okay, this is all to do with me, and I'm the person that can make the inner change that will show up on the screen of life, and I can live the life I create consciously. And remembering also that our paradigm takes time, and that one of the things, the mistakes people make, is not allowing the time, and they'll often turn the car around. Basically, I know who's here. The people I've talked to about these things. It's like getting into your car and driving to. We used to use the analogy of driving to Uckfield, because I was in Eastbourne at the time. Getting your car to drive to Uckfield. Well, normally you just drive to Uckfield, but if you don't stay with the process of change, and you keep turning it round, you get as far as Polegate and churn around, and then you try and set off again, and then you get as far as Halland, and then you turn round. And that's what people do with change often, is they go, oh, it doesn't feel good. So ultimately it's important to keep going and to recognize. That's why the original place of recognizing our patterns, recognizing the way we are, makes all the difference. So we can consciously create, and we can be the change. Well, we can be the change we want in our life, and we can be the change we want to see in the world. So there we go.